So now we have handled the simple scenario, like we have hover the mouse over the particular field and we have click on the baby wish list. And in similar way, as I told, like we can do the right click or we can do the drag and drop. So drag and drop in the sense, let me just open one of the web page called as an jQuery. And in this web page, like there is a concept of a drag and drop. So like we need to drag the element and we need to drop the element. So how we are going to drag and drop in the sense with the help of the action class. So now let us practice this drag and drop in the jQuery.ui.com. So now let me just update the particular URL in the configuration.properties. So under the environment section, like I'm updating the URL. So now let me create a new scenario. So for a drag and drop. So let the scenario name be the drag and drop. So I'm just using the given statement. So like user handles the drag and drop, and let me provide the tag name as a drag and drop. Okay, so you can provide that tag name either in the lowercase or uppercase. It is purely the user choice, so we don't have any naming conversion restriction in the tag name. Okay, it is up to your choice. So whenever we are writing any of the statement, make sure like we are creating the step definition. I'm just creating the step definition. So just I told, like in order to handle the actions like a mouse actions, so we need the help of the actions class. So in order to use the one class in the other class, so we should create an object for the same. So I'm just creating the object for the same actions. I'm giving the variable name as like a drag action is equal to new of actions, and post that the class contains method. I'm selecting the respective method, and it's throwing the error in the actions class because like we need to inject the web driver as a input. I'm just pausing the web driver as a input. So I'm just using this variable name dot. It will list down all the methods in which like we are having the method called as an drag and drop. So but if you just look over this drag and drop. Okay, so the drag and drop, we need to pass two input. So like we need to pass the source and target, because like here we are having two things. So this we call it as a source and this we call it as a target. We need to provide the web element of the source and the target, which is nothing but like we need to create the two web element. I'm just selecting the method called as a drag and drop. It will accept two input. So we need to create the two web element. Let's say I'm creating the first web element. So web element like drag is equal to like driver dot find element, and let me choose any of the locator property. Let me just reload this web page again, and let me right click and let me inspect this particular field. And this is the particular node which is highlighting, and we are having the id in this particular node. So we are having the id called as an draggable. So I already know this id is unique, so I am planning to use this id in my automation. So I'm just copying the attribute value called as an draggable. I can say driver dot find element by dot id, and then we are passing the id called as an draggable, and we are not performing any action because it's just a web element. In similar way, I'm creating the web element for the drop is equal to driver dot find element by dot. So we need to choose any of the locator property. Let me right click and inspect over it. So it is having the id called as an droppable. So I'm picking the id. So here we are having another locator property called as an class. So either if you feel to use the class, yes, you can use the class as well. So I will show you the example how to use this class as well. So I'm going to use it up. So by dot id, and I'm choosing the respective id, and I'm passing the web element into it. So drag, comma, drop. Okay. So in order to composite action to work, like we should always give the dot build and dot perform. At the end, I'm just giving the dot build and dot perform, and I'm going to execute the script. So like what is the tag name we are having? So the tag name is called as an drag and drop. I'm navigating to my runner file and I'm updating the tag, and let me just run this runner file. So it is executing the particular test case. So it should navigate to this jQuery web page, and it should throw the drag and drop, but it is throwing an exception. So which means like it is the given statement is failed because it is showing the red line in the given statement, and in which line it is failing. If you scroll to the down, we can able to see the line of code. It says like it is failing at the Amazon code.java 100. So if we click on the line, so it is failing in this line. And what is the exception? So if you scroll to the top, we can able to see the exception as well. So the exception will be always captured in the top line. So it says no such element exception, unable to locate the element. So what is mean by no such element exception? So I already explained. So the no such element exception will occur one and only if the particular element is not present in the DOM structure. But we are sure, like we have used the ID called as an draggable. It says the draggable is not available, but the ID called as an draggable is available. But why it is throwing the no such element exception? So there may be another reason, so which we need to check moving forward. So we need to check whether the particular node is present inside the frames. Okay. So what is mean by frame? So the frame, they call it as an components which are hosted on the web page. So let's say, so let us take, let me just open the paint and we'll give you the example. So this is the particular web page. So whenever I say driver.find element, it is going to find the element in the entire web page. So which is nothing but it will find the element in the entire web page. So now what happened in the sense, in each and every web page, so we will have some separate components. So they may have a multiple components. So these we call it as an specific container. So generally nowadays in multiple web pages, so we are having some specific containers, and the specific containers will have some independent HTML code. Okay, so it will have the independent HTML code. So let's say, so this is the particular web page. So generally like as per HTML road, so we will be having some HTML structure. It will start with the HTML tag and it will be terminating at the HTML tag. So whenever we find the element, it used to find the element inside this HTML structure. But nowadays in many web pages, like there are a separate component, and each and every specific container is having some independent HTML structure. Okay, so this independent HTML structure, so we call it as an frame. So which means these components are developed and hosted separately. So let's say, or just let me give you a one non-technical example. So this is kind of this we are running some web page. So in the web page, so I am just allocating few space. So where I will provide as a rent to run the advertisement. So which means, so when the space is rented, so obviously, so the rented person have the authority to run the advertisement. So which means they can inject any advertisement over this specific container. So this parent HTML is maintained by us because the web pages belong to us. So we won't provide the privilege to modify our HTML code. So we won't provide the privilege to modify our coding. So rather than, so we are providing the specific container and we are providing the privilege to inject the advertisements. So which is nothing but, so they will have their own HTML structure. So initially, if we need to perform any action inside their own structure, so we need to switch from the parent HTML to the child HTML. So before switching, like we need to identify whether our web page have frame or not. So how we will identify whether we are having the frame or not in the sense. So the frame will have the tag called as an either frame or iframe. So either it will start with a tag called as an frame or iframe. So now let's say, let me just right click and inspect this particular web page, and let me search with the tag called as an iframe. So if you see, if I search with the iframe, I could able to see the result. And if I hover the mouse over this iframe, we could see, so the particular region is highlighting. So which is nothing but it is going to be a specific container, and if I expand the specific container, it will have its own independent HTML structure. So you could see it is having in its own independent HTML structure. So like in the day one we have discussed, like it will have the head tag and the body tag. In similar way, like you'll be able to see the head tag and body tag. If I expand the body tag will have the multiple node, and each and every node will be represent the corresponding field. So which means this is acting as a frame. So as it is present inside the frame, so whenever we try to find the element, it will find the element in the parent HTML. It won't search in the independent structure. But if something is present inside the independent structure, then we need to switch from the parent HTML to the independent HTML. So how we are going to achieve this in the sense, like there is a inbuilt method called as an switch to method. So with the help of the switch to method, like we need to switch to the specific frame. So as it is present inside the frame, it says no such element exception. So whenever the no such element exception occurs, so you need to check whether it is present inside the frame or not. If it is present inside the frame, so we need to switch to the frame and then we need to do the respective action. So in our case, so this particular drag and drop is present inside the frame. So like initially our control is in the parent HTML structure. So this is the parent HTML structure. Whenever we find the element, it will find the element only in the parent HTML structure. But as if we need to find the element inside the frame, so we need to switch inside the frame. So how we are going to switch inside the frame in the sense, with the help of the method called as an switch to. So I'm telling my web driver to switch to the frame. Okay, so there are something called a switch to frame, alert, windows, etc. So we are yet to discuss this alert and windows. So now we are going to switch to the frame. And which frame? So we may have a multiple frame. So in our case, like we are having only one frame, and in this frame, like we are having the attribute called as a source and the class. So let me use this class. Let me create the web element for the same. Okay, so I'm just creating the web element called as an frame element is equal to driver dot find element. So as it is of an class name, so I'm just specifically use the class name locator, and then we are not doing any operation. So as we are creating the web element, I am just passing into the frame. So which means technically, so now the control of the web driver will switch from the parent HTML to the child HTML. So now whenever I say driver.find element, it will find the element only inside the frame. Okay, only inside the specific container. If I need to switch back from the specific container, then I should use the method called as a default content. So when I say like driver dot switch to dot default content, so it will switch back to the parent HTML, which is nothing but it will find the element inside the parent HTML. So moving forward, like whenever the no such element exception occurs, we need to check whether it is present inside the frame or not. So the frame is nothing but the frame is also a HTML code, but it is developed and hosted separately. So we in a single term we can say it is of one specific containers which will have an independent HTML code. So if the frame is present, we need to switch inside the frame and then we need to perform the action and then we need to switch back from the frame. Okay, so now let me run this scenario. Okay, now let me just run this scenario.
We need to use the drag from frame element, right?
Yes.
In the 103 row.
Mm. Yes, so here in the line number 101, we have switched to the frame, right? So whatever the action we are performing, it will find the element only inside the frame because we have already switched inside the frame. So that is why like I have written the code to switch for the frame in the line number 101.
Got it.
So initially like we don't have that frame. We haven't written the code, so generally it will have the driver.find element. So by default it will search the element in the parent HTML, but now we are voluntarily adding the code to switch inside the frame. So now the control will be switch into the frame. Moving forward, like whenever I say driver.find element, it will find the element only inside the frame. So that is why like it will perform the drag and drop operation. I think the execution has been closed because like we have added this driver dot quit, right? So for the time being, let me remove the driver.quit and then we'll rerun again. I will comment the line and let me just run this runner again so you can able to fill it up. Okay, so now it has a drag and drop, and pose that like if we need to click on other option, let's say like if I need to click on this hyperlink called as a draggable or a draggable, then we need to switch from this frame. So how we can switch from the frame in the sense, as I mentioned, like we should use the keyword called as an default content. So we should use the method called as an default content. So whenever we say driver dot switch to default content, it will be switch out of the frame and pose that like whenever I say driver dot find element, so it will find the element in the parent HTML, which is nothing but skipping this frame, it will find the element outside the frame. So whenever you need to perform some specific operation inside the frame, so you need to switch inside the frame and post performing the operation, like you need to switch back to the parent HTML with the help of the method called as a default content. So now let's take this Amazon as an example. So even in this Amazon web page, so we may have a multiple frame. So let me right click on inspect and let me search with the tag called as an either the frame or iframe. So I'm just searching with the tag called as an iframe. So you could see, so there are more than like 16 iframes which are available. So if I hover the mouse over the first iframe tag, so you could see it is highlighting this advertisement. So this is kind of an advertisement. You could see it is they are showing it as sponsored, which is which is nothing but the advertisement will be populating here. If I need to click on this Insta cup for my validation, then what I need to do? I need to switch to this particular frame. So as I told, so each and every frame will have some independent HTML structure. So initially, like we need to switch inside the frame, and if we expand the frame will have the independent HTML structure. Okay, if you scroll to the down, so here you could see the link called as a document. If I expand it, so it will have the independent HTML structure. It will have the head as well as the body, and if I expand the body, like it will be having the multiple node, and each and every node will be representing the unique field inside this particular frame, which means like we need to switch inside the frame as it is present inside the iframe tag. So and also someone has highlighted, right? So in IntelliPad there is an assignment related to the HTFC, like you are not able to do the operation, so even that will be present inside the frame. So you need to identify the frame, and you need to switch inside the frame, and then you need to perform the operation. So moving forward, before automating any web page, so whenever you are right clicking and inspecting any of the locator property, so make sure whether it is present inside the frame or not. So just check whether it is present inside the either iframe or frame tag. If it is present inside the iframe or frame tag, so try to switch inside the frame and do the operation, and then switch back from the frame by using the default content method.